So, all these fruits here are historic, really cool plants that, you know, those first slides I showed you, just, I mean, who wouldn't die to have those varieties in your yard? But you not necessarily have really interesting stories that make people ponder and think about the history of the plants, but every one of these do. So we'll start out with the Rien Claude plum, which is also known as the green Gage plum. In America, you'll see it known as the green Gage. And the reason behind that was that Rien Claude was a French queen. And Rien means queen in French. But there was a British lord by the name of Sir Thomas Gage, and he imported the best of all the French varieties into England, but one of the labels was missing. And so his gardener then just named it the green Gage. And it wasn't until years later that he discovered it was the exact plum was the Rien Claude, but because the British and the French hated each other, no self-respecting British lord would rename his plum Rien Claude, so the name stuck. But the original name, well, it's not even the original name, but the name that became famous was the Rien Claude. And Rien Claude was a medieval queen, and she was Louis XII's daughter. Well, Louis XII was the king of France, but he only had daughters. So his nephew, Francois I, became king when Louis XII died. And they didn't know anything about being inbred back in those days, and so he married his first cousin. And you can see great family resemblance, can't you? You know, but sadly, Queen Claude died at age 25 after having 7 children. One of the things about it was that the Rien Claude plum at the time was known as Verdokia. Verdokia was an Italian plum. Well, Francois I invaded Italy and took over the city-state of Milan, and he talked this man, Leonardo da Vinci, to come to live the rest of his life in his estate in the Loire Valley. And so Leonardo did. He came with him. And Francois I was a big patron of the arts. And so when Leonardo lived there, Queen Claudia, Queen Rien Claude, was just a teenager. And when she died, there's evidence that it was Leonardo da Vinci who brought Verdokia from Italy with him, and then it was named Rien Claude in honor of the death of the young queen. Now we know that Leonardo was very interested in plants, and this is a picture where he did a drawing of blackberries just several years before he came to stay his last years in France. And so I think that there's probably validity to that theory that it was him who brought the plum with him. Because he didn't just bring the plum, he brought the Mona Lisa. And that's how the Mona Lisa became French. And that's why it's in the Louvre Museum now, because he was presented the Mona Lisa to Francois I.